It is a real honor to us.
It's honor for me to be with you. Thank you for invitation.
Thank you. Our meeting is part of series of talks organized by the Animal Cognition Research Club and the Animal Behavior and Mind Laboratory at the Department of Cognition Science at the University of the National Education Commission in Krakow. And the discussion will be moderated by Dr. Anna Sarosiek.
Thank you.
And me, myself. Tak. Nasze spotkanie jest organizowane przez Koło Naukowe Animal Cognition i Laboratorium Umysłu i Zachowań Zwierząt przy Katedrze Kognitywistyki Uniwersytetu Komisji Edukacji Narodowej w Krakowie. And the plan for the meeting is that we will first discuss general topics related to animal communication and biosemiotics. And then we will open the floor to the audience, giving you the opportunity to ask our guest, the professor, questions. Więc plan jest prosty. Nasze spotkanie polega na tym, że porozmawiamy na ogólne tematy związane z zoosemiotyką, komunikacją wewnątrzgatunkową, międzygatunkową, biosemiotyką, a następnie zaprosimy Państwa do zadawania pytań panu profesorowi. So, our special guest is Professor Kalevi Kull from University of Tartu. Professor used to work as a field ecologist. His early research focused on ethology and ecophysiology. In 1997, Professor joined the Department of Semiotics and became the head of the Department of Semiotics at the University of Tartu. His interests include biosemiotics, ecosemiotics, theoretical biology, and the philosophy of nature. Since I have the privilege of asking the first question, I'd like to start by quoting a classic line from 50 years ago by Donald Griffin, and in his book, The Question of Animal Awareness. In this book, Donald Griffin wrote exactly 50 years ago that animal communication provides access to the mind of animals, to their minds. But we know that biosemiotics posits that communication can occur even without minds, without cognitive systems on the lower level. So my question is, does every communication activity actually indicate the existence of some kind of mental content? I'm also referring to invertebrates or even other kingdoms of life forms.
So yeah, certainly not. Because okay, it depends on how we define communication, but very often people are speaking about communication between computers or just that kind of devices, which are, well, too simple to make any meaning by themselves. So therefore, so we should probably not speak that much, or in addition, at least, to communication, we need to be aware of possibility for meaning making. So whether there is meaning making or not, that is the crucial issue. And meaning making now is almost universal for living system. But what's the absolutely minimum system, what is capable for meaning making, it's not yet known, I would say that, yeah, that's actually the, yeah, I would, I'm certainly really believe that all invertebrates, all animals are capable for meaning making. But I think even more, you know, Jakob von Uexkülla, one of his examples was a unicellular creature, paramecium. So in German, this was also called Pantoffeltierchen. That means a kind of as if animal. Of course, it's not animal. It's a eukaryotic cell, but it's and Uexkülla is speaking about its Umwelt. If Uexkülla is right here, then also unicellular organism is capable for meaning making. I think that's a pretty good hypothesis. And now, of course, the next question is how to recognize meaning making, what it is precisely. So that is so that has been for a very long time, of course, just a matter of debates, and people couldn't solve it. I think that here a good possibility is to think about a temporal aspect, namely when in certain system the present time appears. That means the simultaneity of something what is in physical sense not precisely simultaneous, but which are simultaneous, truly simultaneous for the system itself. So that is what we usually mean when we speak about perceptual space or visual space. Visual space is principally this. So you see many things absolutely simultaneously, however they might not be precisely simultaneous in physical sense if one is measuring very precisely how light comes in and so on. But so phenomenologically this is truly simultaneous, and that if that simultaneity appears, then already maybe in that paramecium or some simple organisms, then that is the condition for true meaning making. This is condition for freely establish new relations. So what are, so to say, physically not there, but what are there phenomenologically and in one's Umwelt. And that's the start for meaning making. So for the whole of biology, I think this means not to start from physical point of view, but to start from semiotic point of view. These are two greatest sciences. Physics starts from causality, semiotics starts from freedom. So so the being, what we mean by being in life, truly being, that certainly should include a piece of freedom. If there's no freedom, pure determinism, that's not really being in terms of, living or something. So, and when that, okay, we know pretty much about necessary conditions for that, but the whole set of necessary and sufficient conditions, when in its minimum, that appears, that's a big, one of the biggest questions for biology, I think, nowadays. So that means I do not know precisely about these creatures. But my hypothesis is, yes, that at least to maybe, okay, all animals, no doubt, but probably also the most of eukaryotic cells.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anna?
So if biosemiotics seems to allow for meaningful sign process without assuming a human-like mind, so where would you draw, Professor, the line between communication as behavioral coordination, communication as semiosis, or communication as evidence of mind?
So, in case of when one speaks about communication, so often it's described as a kind of signal comes in, then there is a response, and then okay, maybe some kind of analysis, and then response, behavioral response, and then back and forth, it comes communication. But actually, when we speak about meaningful communication, then that cannot start from signal. It starts from interpretation. The organism interprets what's going on, and mutual interpretation between organisms, that's then communication. So somehow then such signal is not primary, signals are kind of secondary in this view, or this important is that organism's own active interpretive processing, interpretation process itself by definition is semiosis. So if there is interpretation, that is semiosis, so that is synonymically, that is meaning making. So of course, for an external observer, we do not have usually means in order to decide whether there is a real interpretation going on in the organism, whether the organism was that system, it's kind of system. So it may look from outside that it does interpretation, but really it may be just a pure automaton. So without any freedom in it. So in order to make this difference, we need to know something about these, how the system is built, what kind of processes are there inside, which whether there are those simultaneously ongoing or interacting functional cycles, which then allow to build this perceptual field with simultaneity, and then to make meaning. So we need somehow to investigate the build-up structure of the system itself. Otherwise, we cannot decide. The robot can simulate communication so well, but without making any meaning.
Thank you very much. This is a very interesting point. Yeah, Marcin?
I would like to discuss shortly the creation of meaning, or meaning making, which I think implies symbolic communication. I think so. Donald Griffin provided examples of mammals, birds, so higher vertebrates, and social insects like bees, for example, that emit quite complex messages. So the meaning making is rather probably obvious, but In the same time, in 1970s, exactly in 1975, for example, David Premack or Peter Marler, they wrote that even higher vertebrates, maybe all vertebrates, communicate basically emotions rather than meaningful thoughts or some more complex content. Do you think that animals or vertebrates, even mammals or birds, primarily communicate emotional states, which are obviously meaningful, but not they are not. This is not symbolic communication. Maybe it is signaling. Still, there are meaningful messages, but not so complex that like we can identify among humans or even primates. Maybe the most intelligent mammals, dolphins, apes, dogs, elephants, and so on. So what do you think about the primarily emotional communicates in this meaning making? Do you agree with such sentences?
Yeah, that's a very important question, of course, and but this leads us to the question how we classify
This is my next question about classification.
Because whether or what types of communication, what types of meaning making there exist, and that's one of those is a symbolic, but there are simpler ones. So, and now I'm using this just as first approach, very often just 4 simple types of meaning making. And these are first, the most simple is just related to recognition of patterns, and that is imprinting, what's going on, imprinting type of meaning. So that's just simplest iconic sign recognition. Then next one is associative type, where organism already is capable to, in addition to recognize and different forms, different patterns, also using their correlativity of their appearance to associate them and to, in this way, to establish relations and reference. So seeing one thing, it has learned that that's correlatively related to something else, like Pavlovian conditioned reflexes. So associative learning is behind that, and that's already so clearly meaning making, however rather simple. So, and then further, that's indexical then. Okay, further on, then that's imitation, the imitational science, and imitational, they are very often related to empathy also, the emotional now. So if this very first imprinting type, iconic one, I think is rather universal for everywhere where their organisms have their perceptual fields already. Then associative learning mainly is for animal kingdom. So invertebrates do that pretty well. Imitational is basically for vertebrates, and emotional all together with that. And now truly symbolic, that is requiring that's requiring imagination. So imagined forms, so what may not exist in nature, in surrounding at all, so organism may through the capacity of imagination make new relations and create symbols in this way. And that's basically human capacity in a little extent, probably also in higher apes, human apes. So I think it is very important to try to see this different logical levels or levels of logical complexity in this meaning relations. So only then we
so the simple emotions simple emotional episodes may belong even to the second level, which consists of associations, correlations, probably in higher invertebrates like octopuses, for example, or bees, maybe, probably.
Quite
and
possible.
The more complex emotion or affect is, the higher level it belongs to.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, quite possible. Yeah, I agree.
Anna?
So that's very interesting. Just a piece of history. That was 50 years ago when Thomas Sebeok made this collection, How Animals Communicate. And that's, published in 1977. And this includes chapters of, say, specialists of all possible fields of biology, so all speaking about their own group of animals and their communication. So main groups of insects, reptiles, birds, main groups of mammals, all included as different separate chapters here. So it's 50 years ago, but if you read it, you really find something very interesting already since then. That Tom Sebeok's idea was, by the way, that the whole ethology, what was developed in 1960s already and 70s moreover, should somehow get its theory from semiotics. Say that because ethology, it's basically meaningful communication and theory of that, and so he really tried to introduce the semiotic theory for the whole of ethology, and I think that's a program what should be at some point completed, but it's not yet completed. And why it wasn't completed in Sebeok's time was most probably due to the dominance of sociobiology and this neo-Darwinian explanation, what explained all the things through evolution. While and not starting from, so to say, from the subjective world of organism itself, not starting from its freedom and not asking what would animal do if it has a free time. So instead, everything was explained in the evolutionary way, somehow trying to find good functions for any piece of behavior. And so somehow that was a general paradigm of what dominated the whole second half of the 20th century biology, what actually somehow inhibited that kind of whole bunch of interesting questions even to be asked and to study, because it provided another kind of explanation. But now, since the whole biology is is changing after epigenetic turn, recent epigenetic turn. So that's that opens again, I think, the whole freedom for studying animal freedom.
Thank you. I think that Peter Marler, I suspect that Peter Marler wrote a chapter in this book by Thomas Sebok about affects. But,
right. Peter Marler was one of the really great ethologists at that time, who was few people who really understood already then the importance of semiotic approach.
Anna?
I think so. If meaning making always involves interpretation, does it also involve some minimal form of freedom of choice or
Yes,
choice?
I think so. I really think so. That it is at least a little bit. So yeah, that means that behavior is not entirely deterministic, but there is still a little possibility for an animal to do otherwise, to choose another path, so to react differently. So the habits and the conditions are channeling, of course, behavior strongly. But I don't think that in case, if it's real meaning making, then a little bit of freedom is there. Yeah, precisely. There are possibilities to behave.
Mm-hmm. So when an organism responds to a sign, it's not only the causally reaction, or there is already a small space of semiotic freedom.
Right.
So,
actually, if one has a visual space, as we all do, so perceptual space, that means there are things simultaneously there. Therefore, if they are simultaneous, that means that they are so their order, what happens next, is not determined. So if the things are sequential, then the order is clear, and so you have to follow it. But in case of simultaneity, then the order is not fixed, and that is the freedom. So a piece of freedom there. You can look either there or there, and where you look. So this is a little bit free.
Okay. Thank you very much.
I would like to discuss the problem of classification of messages or signals, if these are not synonyms. You said about Thomas Sebok, and various researchers during the whole period of 20th century, such as Sebok or Donald Hebb, classified the signals and messages emitted by animals in different ways. Do you think that there is some kind of principle by which we could today categorize the signals and messages, maybe only among vertebrates, it would be easier, or even among mammals only? Or maybe there is a principle by which we could categorize signals even in the entire animal kingdom. I think that the concept of communication is sometimes overused or overinterpreted, or sometimes is applied metaphorically. So if there is animal taxonomy and this is hierarchical, maybe also communication can be classified hierarchically. What do you think?
So yeah, this is important question, and there's no general agreement about that, how to do it yet. So there is a classical paper by Thomas Sebeok, indeed, 6 species of science. So he uses their say symptom, icon, index, what else? Name is related to symbol, and so on. 6 species in this case. So, but that is one possibility. So the other, I just earlier spoke about 4 simple ones. So, but then we can also use Charles Peirce's system, so which is basically provides a system of 10 basic species of interpretations, but 10 basic species of science. So that is, so at least to try to apply that, that's logically a bit complex for a beginner, and there are not so many publications which I have used this 10-fold system of science, but I think it's at least useful to try in one's research whether or how well that system would work. Of course, on the other hand, this is an empirical question also. This is not only theoretical, because say Charles Peirce provided it not on empirical basis, but purely on logical basis, that classification. So somehow this empirical and logical have to be connected. Further on, my view is that this typology can be related to the types of learning, so the basic mechanisms of learning. So, but then again, so the concept of learning is also such rather ambiguous nowadays. So that's but anyway, if you look on the ways or principal types or levels of learning in animals, then say the next level would probably provide more complex logical relations. So and yeah, this is at the same time the problem of pre-linguistic logic. So again, if you go from logic, I think that's also an important way to go. Then logic usually starts somehow from the capacity to have language, a human language, a symbol making, and but you should go just lower and to find even simpler relations than those you will usually find in logic textbooks. So that's an interesting part, because in some way this area altogether, animal cognition, so this is about the development of capacity for logic, so capacity intelligence, what it is. That is a kind of logical reasoning. So that means, but the most primitive types of inference, let's say, and the processes in which case logic as such appears. This is fascinating area. We can also define it in a kind of different way. So you see, the whole physics and whole natural science is using this old Aristotelian principle of non-contradiction. So that in nature there is nature cannot be contradictory as such. So because that's the whole principle why mathematics works for physics. So you can mathematical models you build on the basis of principle of non-contradiction. But now in organisms, in the living cognition, there appear truly logical contradictions. Because logical contradiction exists in our mind, certainly. And the first appearance of contradiction, how it occurs, it requires freedom. It requires simultaneity. So all these things. So that's, again, I think this area is not systematically analyzed yet. So from, well, animal cognitive studies, we have much very interesting material for that. But really to develop it, applying some logical models in addition, and Charles Peirce, of course, is one possibility. I wouldn't say that it's just the must, but helpful for at certain stage of studies, at least, I think. Yeah.
So
I'd like only notice that if because you said about learning, for example, or other cognitive abilities as a reference system, if animal taxonomy can be hierarchically organized by cognitive abilities, communication also can be classified hierarchically, for example, because of the ability to learn. So, for example, the lower kind of signaling would be for annelids or crustaceans or arthropods. Then there are mollusks or octopuses, then fish, and so on, and vertebrates, and so on, so on. Chciałem tylko powiedzieć Państwu, że tak jak mówiłem na początku, pytania od publiczności, pan Zbigniew Suszkiewicz, będą już na samym końcu, ale oczywiście w kolejce odpowiedniej będziemy pamiętać. Anna?
So I think biosemiotics is very attractive because it weakens this anthropocentric habit of identifying meaning with language or cognition with human-like mentality. But there is the question I hear a lot. How can we avoid the opposite danger, calling every biological response communication, and thereby making the concept too broad? What do you think?
So models can help here, probably. One part of those is, of course, what's going on now in relation to large language models, where when you look into the algorithm itself, so you may see there is no meaning making going on whatsoever.
Sure.
So, and while it is capable to simulate the meaning-making behavior precisely and very, very well. So, and that's now how to make this difference, say the simulated, purposeful behavior and true purposeful behavior, let's say. So I think the only way is to study models, so and to compare models and to look to these differences on the level of models, which we can identify as meaning-making processes and which are not that kind. So that's quite a bit of theoretical work here.
Yeah, I understand, but because the models like LLMs or symbolic system, there is no problem with meaning making because, you know, Chinese room, etc. But yeah, I know this is artificial, and many of us just know they are artificial, and there is nothing like meaning making. But you know, when we are talking about this simple organism like E. coli, for example, or even about plants, there is this kind of dangerous to thinking about this concept to, it can be overuse. Oh, this is
true. I absolutely agree. So we shouldn't apply a priori here, so that just to claim that all organisms have it, or or some, of course, go even beyond living. So it should be studied. That should be taken as a truly scientific problem, however methodologically, epistemologically very different or very hard problem. But anyway, stepwise, we can go here. We can have some progress in this understanding.
Yes, but there is the problem of border of knowing, and the Umwelt of others. So study the model is a great work, I know, but still, I don't know, can we be there, truly be there, and know that there is the meaning making, not something like reaction, just reaction.
So I think, but we have some nice research done before us. Francisco Varela's last works about neurophenomenology, for instance. So where he's speaking the same things I was just mentioning here about the simultaneity, time, subjective present, and so where the real meaning making begins. So that's one way to go. I think a good heuristic here is that just to accept that we do not know yet where is the lower threshold of meaning making, lower threshold of semiosis. We do not know yet. We do, however, accept that there is in one area, at least to high animals, where everything, so true meaning making works, so subjectivity works, and so that's there. And on the other hand, in part of non-living, where that's absent. So, and now if these two assumptions are made and accepted, then certainly there should be somewhere either truly continuous or probably not truly continuous, but with some jumps, when these new qualities, truly new qualities appear. And this is when true Umwelt appears. I think that's, of course, the minimal Umwelt is so very simple. Just organism is doing one distinction. So in its very simple perceptual world,
And this is also the better option to think that there is meaning making than opposite. Yeah.
We accept that we
just
have meaning making ourselves. So that's
therefore
that's
Thank you.
I see that there are a few people in the audience who are particularly interested in canine communication or dog communication. My next question will be about dogs. As we know, dogs spontaneously signal their needs and emotions to humans through body language, the position of tail, ears, licking, gazing, yawning, turning their heads, and so on. They are hypersocial mammals, so probably they constantly communicate with us, and they don't need any additional tools for example, soundboard with sound buttons. But soundboard and sound buttons for dogs and cats are very popular, and they are even the subject of university research, for example, by Professor Federico Rossano at the Comparative Cognition Laboratory in San Diego. His team researched such ability and in dogs and maybe even cats. But there are some kinologists or dog psychologists who have mixed feelings about communicating with dogs using soundboards. For example, by famous dog named Bunny. I've got a bad feeling about this soundboard and sound buttons. I've got a bad feeling about this. So my question is, what do you think about this mode, this trend about sound buttons for dogs to talk to people? If dogs can communicate easily and we can easily interpret what they talk to us, but by body language.
Yeah, that here we have a couple of interesting aspects. First is biorhetoric, so that they are kind of rhetorical organisms. They are capable for persuasion, so they persuade humans to do something or other animals. But that is, if you delve into it, that's a rather widespread feature somehow appearing in animal behavior. But the other thing is just this problem of translation now. So how to translate their behavior, their into human language. So that's for fun. One way can do that, and maybe in some cases that's even interesting indeed. For people who really are naturalists and just want to have this direct conversation with nature, so for them those tools are not really maybe so interesting. That's somehow the question is, if we build those, whether some kind of additional alienation would be as a result. That's a matter of translation, I think. Of course, so when you translate from a science system which is not based on narratives, like the animal ones are not based on narratives, so like human language, one is narrative based, then or in some other way, if you translate from a system which is using rather simple logic into a system which is using complex logic, so then you may, due to that difference itself, misinterpret then what the translator would provide. So very interesting part. I haven't worked on that. I'm not a specialist here, better to say.
It is possible that dogs who use these paw movements and sounds to communicate with their owners or their caretakers. This is so unnatural for them that it can cause frustration, stress, even anxiety. So in other words, these soundboards can be stressful. It is highly unnatural and artificial form of communication for them.
I agree.
Anna?
I understand everything, and I am sure that there is no this kind of possibilities that they expand this kind of communication. This is just the translation, but we also know that dogs just knows the verbal signs, so this is kind of similar with understanding. So I don't. This is fair enough for me. Thank you.
My last question is more philosophical. I would like to ask you, do you know why animals, for example dogs, don't ask questions, but instead they make requests, they give orders, they try to persuade, as you said, one another or to us? Why animals don't ask questions?
Wonderful question. So, yeah, but then we should also somehow try to understand what is the question and what is the minimal question. And now, if an animal, dog, whoever, is just walking in forest, and then there is a tree and one can pass the tree either from left or from right. So then it has to decide. At first it's kind of a little situation of confusion because there are two possibilities and no instructions. So both possibilities are there open. And now, isn't it a question for an animal, provided just by this optionality of the perceptual world, so what to do, so to say? I think that what to do is somehow a hidden primary question for all those beings who have their own world. Okay, this is a very different from the question we are meaning while using in our human life. The question what has a clear formulation and say, but there are these problems, so to say, they are not consciously presented. But you know, Karl Popper has written some very interesting stuff on biology, and among other, he says that organisms' life, it is all over problem solving. This is problem solving all the time. So, and if it's problem solving, the problem isn't it a question? So, in some sense, yes. So, and that's. But there can be problem only if there is a little bit of freedom. So,
I wanted to ask about that. Is that possibility to the asking question is the way to freedom at the very beginning? So it was my question.
Yeah.
So maybe I can ask my my other question, Marcin. What do you think? This is another one from different side. So I was talking to you about my ant colonies and my art simulation. So my question is, how do you think Does biosemiotic allow us to speak about semiosis at the level of the colony, or should semiosis always be attributed to individual organisms?
A fascinating question. So, in principle, my first answer is yes, it can be distributed.
Yeah.
So, because well, organism itself, multicellular organism, is also just a kind of distributed bunch of cells, so where everything goes on. And now, if we think about these individual ants as cells, so sometimes they touch each other, sometimes not. Likewise in our own organism, on our own body. So that's also kind of distributed system. So therefore, you know, Jesper Hofmeyr nicely wrote about swarm intelligence. So, and to provide, so suggest us to think about organism as such always as a swarm. So that is like a colony, like a group of individuals. So, and that is important suggestion, I think, that so because if you are not thinking about organism as just consisting of many, you would very easily go to the problem of homunculus. So that there should be somewhere, say, one center where, say, the perception, everything is going on. But there is no such center. So always, even in the cellular level. So that it is intelligence is distributed. So, and if that is the primary model we are using in order to understand meaning making, so then we have to at least to hypothesize that this is also possible on the level of any communicating collective. I mean, yeah, the organism itself is a communicating collective, and so also ant colony or the, I don't know, the a group of birds or
Fishes,
whichever.
plants.
Yeah. So, however, now the other problem is the how complex can there be this semiosis or what, because semiosis at the same time is a dialogic. It is a dialogue, always some kind of dialogue. But this is a dialogue what has to happen in simultaneously, so somehow. If that simultaneous, there's no, it's just sequential, the meaning making cannot happen. There should be an important part of simultaneity. And that is now limiting its size, I think, because that in human cases that is below 1 second is that the duration of the present moment. So that means what is going on within that temporal window of less than 1 second, let's say half a second. So that can be perceived as simultaneous. And that is the necessary condition for true meaning making, meaning as a real something. So, and now that if you think about birds, group of birds who are, let's say, starting to fly off almost simultaneously. So, and there I see some kind of decision making can be collective indeed. So, and so probably also in case of insects.
So I think Piers would agree to that, but I don't it is kind of distributed semiosis, but I know this can be understood like cognitive, collective cognition, but distributed semiosis is something like in Peirce's work about the mind and pen.
I think we should apply that model everywhere. That say also in case of well, when we apply Persian Charles Peirce's models, say that it's also dialogic all the time. And
Okay.
dialogic, that means it is
Okay,
distributed in some sense.
Yes.
Yeah.
Between two subjects, just like that.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Very helpful answer for me. Thank you.
So I think now it is time for questions from the audience. Więc zachęcamy do zadawania pytań i pan Zbigniew Słuszkiewicz pewnie zada nam pierwsze pytanie. Słuchamy. Tak, trzeba odblokować.
Hi, can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, we hear you.
Yes, we are hearing.
You can hear me. Hello. Hi, very interesting talk. First of all, I would like to say that I love your definition of an organism as a process that interprets science. It was very insightful. I would like to go back to your discussion from about half an hour ago, because however important discussion about communication between animals similar to us may be, I believe that the strongest aspect of biosemiotics, and at the same time the most daring, is the search for the sources of meaning in its identity and its identity with life. So the synergistic thesis of continuity. And there's my question. So about basic cognition, the most or basic kinds of semiosis, the most primary, if I can say so. So I'm interested in the issue of assigning meaning to that kind of systems which are not animals per se, even, I don't know, bacteria. I was a bit confused by your example from the paper of 2009 of hemoglobin, or maybe I misread this, as representing the absence of oxygen. I understand that the notion of absence from the Terence Deacon, but when I think about the meaning, what if hemoglobin is representing somehow the absence of oxygen, then it must bear some meaning for this molecule. It's so confusing for me. There is even simpler example, also from Deacon. It's called in your paper from 2009. It's autocells, and in his book, and later in his works, it's autogene, probably. So two processes which are interconnected and reinforce each other, sustain each other, rebuild, and all of that. So they need energy and materia from outside. Of course, we are all materia driven all the time, organistic thesis, I understand it. But now, if it's the most simple form about which we can compare to life, so to the process of interpreting science, how does it gain the meaning? Well, this process of differentiation is interpretation, I assume, but I'm struggling with grasping, maybe because of this baggage of Western classical thought. I have a problem with grasping what is very difficult question. What from nature, how is it to be the molecule which can differentiate or interpret something from the outside as a process?
Thank you. That's very important again, and very nice. What I would say now is that these examples, like just reactions to absence somehow in a hemoglobin molecule, or this autogene in autogene model of Terence Deacon, so they are still too simple for real meaning making. I think these are examples of necessary conditions, but not yet sufficient conditions. So that means certainly the recognition of absence as such, the absent aspect of absence is important feature, very important aspect when we try to understand what meaning making is. So, but somehow in the case of these examples it exists, but that is not enough for meaning making according to my current understanding. So there's no umwelt yet in these examples. Therefore, I would simply say that my current understanding is that, these are describing some parts of the mechanism, but not yet it in full. That meaning making is a little more complex process than those.
Okay, but then when you write about identity of the distinction about life, no life, and sign, no sign, then it's not necessarily so, because if we call hemoglobin a form of life, and even the simplest form of life, autogene, but they are not capable of interpreting yet.
Yeah, right.
So,
right.
So what is needed more?
Yeah. What is needed more for interpretation? So because you understand that how we define life, that's also different. So some people define it in one way or some other way. So we here shouldn't make a claim that any type of life is at the same time capable for meaning making. I think that very often what's called living can be yet in some cases without capacity for meaning making. This is just the most simple, just minimal cell might be too simple for this meaning making. What else can be we see?
What is lacking? What is lacking then?
What is lacking? That is that I say simultaneity of multiple perception. So first, there should be more than one receptor, so to say. There should be, more than one in order to make real distinctions, and then something what integrates those into one, into one as a perceptual field.
Yeah. So capacity to make coherent, I would say, inferences about different modes of senses.
Yeah.
Yes.
Something like
Something
that.
like this. So if an entity has only one mode of interacting with its niche, then it's incapable of interpreting what's outside.
Yeah. So the system has to be able to have a problem. So if you have only one receptor, you cannot have a problem yet. You have to have two, which can be in contradiction. Then you can have a problem, so to say.
Okay, thank you.
Professor, I think that your video has frozen, but we still have an audio connection. So let's continue.
Do you hear me?
Now it's okay.
Yes,
now
yes,
it's okay.
no.
Okay.
Now it's okay.
Yeah.
Janina Mękarska, please.
Hello. Like you see, my name is Janina Mękarska, and thank you for a very interesting discussion. I admit that many topics came up during the discussion that I would like to touch on. In Monday, I had a PhD defense where I analyzed the impact of bias on the interpretation of research involving animals other than human in mind reading. So I decided to refer to comment made by Professor Urbaniak. So my perspective is firmly rooted in philosophy of mind and semiotics. Therefore, I often have a big problem with certain terms or reiter their meaning in the field of zoosemiotics. And example is the intentionality you talked about moments before meeting start. I must admit that I was eavesdropping, so I'm sorry. So my remark is to moving on the question, I'm curious what you think about such a slightly provocative thought, namely that the use of terms such as intentionality is in a field of the semiotic big exaggerated. It serves to show the similarity between humans and other species, but in reality it doesn't touch what we classically in psychology or philosophy understand behind this concept. And this example of building barriers given by the professor can be easily described in terms of bias. So preferences for the cognitive system, which resulting from simplified rules or reasoning, maybe. And my fears are even more intense when I talk to neuroscientists, for example, who postulate the complete removal of epistemological issues in the first place. They're rejecting this this layer of analysis because it cannot be measured, which again brings me to the Watson black box. And I have a lot of problem to understand why we in zoosemiotics we use some problematic terms when we can try to touch maybe more basic process. I don't know what do you think about this?
Okay, several ways to answer that interesting question. First, if you take, for instance, John Searle's book Intentionality, so a classical book, then and you can actually read it in the way that he provides the possibility to apply it to other organisms. So he's not so strictly limiting the concept of humans only. So that's one way. Also, of course, intentionality was used in the writings by Jesper Hofmeyr in here. But the other aspect is this, that about the methods to detect whether there is a meaning or not in a system. Say, what kind of device can that be? What can recognize or just measure the meaning? You see, only the meaning-making system can recognize meaning. So, therefore, you cannot measure it in terms of in normal physical sense in principle. You need a meaning maker in order to recognize meaning. Therefore, I think that's the whole epistemology of semiotics, what comes out from that further on, and that's certainly very interesting. That's why I wrote really say that there are two classes of sciences, physical sciences and semiotic sciences. And say, Geisteswissenschaften, say, are Wissenschaften, sciences. So and semiotics is their basis. So where we start from freedom. So that's the peculiarity of meaning as such, what it is. So you understand that for physical worldview, for physical picture of the world, meaning as such does not exist. So simply, you describe the whole in the physical way, the whole world, and there's no need for the concept of meaning at all. So except when one starts to ask about from where you get that knowledge. So.
Okay, yes, I understand that we don't have tools to measure that abilities, but
we do have it.
This is my problem. Yes, we have some tools which measure some sign of meaning or intentionality or things in mind, but I don't know that we can measure them, these abilities. We can measure some signs in behavior which can tell us that, for example, intentionality is there or not. And yes, I think that, of course, I agree that with your arguments, but I think that it's a metaphorically, it's a metaphor that we can measure it. We can measure some elements which can say us that it's a probability that this ability is there. I don't know. But yes, I know that you don't need philosophical and epistemological theories to measure behavior, but I think that we need to take some background from semiotics itself to talk about abilities which we can measure just not itself, but just by some signs which are not clear actually. I don't know that it was clear what I tried to say.
Very interesting anyway. So, but try to get just a precise definition of intentionality. You see that's difficult to get it. So.
Yes, I try to, in the zoosemiotic, we have some three conditions which need to be, when we want to say that the signal is intentional, right? But I think that these conditions, like we need to, I don't want to refer these conditions, but it's, I think that these conditions don't have these aspects of what intentionality is when we talk about, oh, this animal is intentional and what is consequence in ethical, for example, for this situation. I don't know, it's understandable.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Pani Aleksandra Chlebda, prosimy.
Hello, it's nice to be here and see you and hear you, Professor. I have some more specific question about zoorhetorics. Nowadays, researchers like Alex Parrish bring rhetorical terms to the animal world. And I think how we can avoid the trap of anthropomorphism and cognitive overinterpretation. Where do you see the boundary? Where can we be sure that the behavior we see, it's an authentic rhetorical act of behavior in animals, of course?
Yeah, again, very important problem. But in order to avoid anthropomorphism, we need to somehow to know what the specificity of human is, what it is, what we have to avoid. And this is now a question about the difference between these science systems, between human language and human reasoning and the other science systems. So what is the, what we try not to be influenced by. And here, again, what is now the difference then? And one aspect I mentioned is the narrativity. So that we, in a human mind, we all the time can imagine about past and future. So, and that kind of imagination about past and future is almost always absent in case of other living beings. So, and now that means we shouldn't think about their behavior as based on any argumentation about their own past or their ideas about what happens tomorrow. So when we just apply that kind of reasoning for animals, then it's clear anthropomorphism. So that's that's one, I think, one of most important aspects where very often the mistake is made when interpreting behavior of other species. They cannot plan, so in any usual our sense, or their options are options here and now, not about what to do tomorrow. So, and that's big difference, and that's of course very interesting to understand then how it is possible still to have so stable ways of behavior, stable ways of life, without really being aware about tomorrow.
Okay, so can we see the situation like when some primates, some monkey, have some behaviors to choose to do now, and he choose the deception one because it's now and situation is on the time, not not thinking about tomorrow or the past or yesterday. It's thinking now that deception is the best way what it can do. It's not anthropomorphism, and we can assume that it's zoorhetorics behavior, right?
Yeah, right.
Okay.
So, right. So, of course, that deception is very often just a way, a part of a play, probably. Some playful way to behave. But yes, I think so.
Okay, thank you very much.
I chyba jeszcze pani Wiktoria Buraczyńska się zgłaszała, jeżeli dobrze widziałem.
Yes, but my question has been answered because I was going to ask about anthropomorphism either way. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So if there is no other questions, I think we are nearing to the end of our meeting slowly. Anna?
Yes, of course, I would like to ask more questions, but I know time is going.
Yes.
So
Yeah. What
thank you.
I would like still to add is that just knowing a little bit about the history of Polish science, Polish semiotics, and so I see that Polish semiotics has been really, really rich. So whether that's Korzybski's map is not a territory everybody knows, and later. Say Tartu School of Semiotics has been from its beginning actually learned quite a bit from Polish scholars. Jerzy Belz was one of leaders there. You have, and on the other hand, this I have noticed this animal cognition studies going on there. So I somehow feel that you have beautiful conditions to develop really, really very interesting zoosemiotics. So in Poland, and that's very, very good to learn from you. Thank you very much for this very, very interesting conversation you organized.
Thank you very much. It was a great pleasure to talk with you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much for accepting our invitation and for very interesting conversation. And we sincerely hope to see you again in the future.
We hope so.
It will be pleasure and honor.
So
Mr.
I will be in Poland.
No.
I will be in Poland in September.
In September,
I will
yes,
be
in Lublin.
this the Cognitive Society meeting.
Yes.
And so then we can meet there also.
Of course.
Yes, probably.
And we are probably I am going to go there to visit you.
I'll be there also. So.
Pan Słuszkiewicz chciał jeszcze coś dodać szybko? Nie. Okay, so thank you all very much for attending the meeting, and we are going to meet again soon, next time. Thank you, Professor, and we are going to meet in September, but in live option, not virtually, during the meeting. Thank you all, and we will meet again soon in the next conversation, and I hope we will see with Professor Kull also soon. We will be in contact.
Yeah, have a beautiful spring.
Yes, thank you.
You too. Thank you very much. See you